Welcome to another community call for Dapr. Thank you for joining us. And let's get started. Today on the agenda, we got several items. We have just announced the release of Dapr version 1.3. Very exciting. Archer is gonna go over some of the highlights of the release and answer some questions if anybody has any. Yaron's gonna go over how to become a contributor in the project and I guess various roles that we have. Which is great. If you're looking to contribute, please look out for that section. Then Bernd is going to go over something new that was added in version 1.3, which is support for TTL in some of the secret stores. Charlie is going to go over mechanical markdown, something that has been implemented and integrated into the quick starts and is kind of a cool thing that we're using. And we'll have a little announcement on some changes coming up with the community calls and timing. And hopefully we'll have enough time for open discussion. So anything that you have, oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's state store, not secret stores. That's a bug in the slide. I'm sorry about that. Okay, yeah, so if you have any questions during the sections themselves, please drop them in the chat. We'll let you unmute if needed, and let's get started. So Dapr version 1.3, Archer, take it away.
Yes, thank you.
Share?
Screen, yes, I am. Okay, I'm assuming you can share. I can see my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, so we just released Dapr version 1.3, and I want to go through the highlights with you guys. And some of it you might have seen in previous community calls where with them we did like a preview of the feature that will be coming out. So as you all saw Yaron demonstrating previously, we're gonna have a gRPC support for using your own protobuf. So your service will not need to implement Dapr's protobuf API anymore. You can just use your own, and it's a preview feature like we have now for this type of enhancements, and you can see how you can enable this in our documentation. And if you go to the how-to, also in our documentation, you can see an example of how a server uh, with no Dapr-specific changes can receive calls from a client. And the only thing the client needs to do that is different is that it needs to append a metadata for the context. So in this case, is Dapr app ID and the name of your app. So that's something that Yano worked on, and you can see a demo in a previous community call. But they also go through the documentation as well. Um, Another feature is we're going to support reminders with ISO 8601. Um, so going forward, you can use the usual way, but you can also specify the period using the ISO format. And in addition, you can also have repetitions as well. So if you go to ISO format, you can see an example where you can say a period of 3 years, 6 months, 4 days, and then at the time separator, 12 hours, 30 minutes, 5 seconds. So you can specify reminders to have a length of this time. So have a duration of this time. So this is an example of how you can specify reminders going forward. And another enhancement for actors is reentrancy. So reentrancy was previously demoed, and you can now use that in .NET, PHP, and Python SDKs. Java will support that coming next. Sorry, not PHP. PHP was here. We have to update the release notes. Java and PHP don't have it. It's .NET and Python that you can use it, and you can enable this feature with the same settings as in the preview as a preview feature as well. You can see actor reentrancy. And then we have actor reminder storage partitioning, which is something to help folks that are running production with using actor reminders with a high volume, a high number of reminders that is active. This can allow you to scale that for state stores like Cosmos DB, where there's a limit of how many items you can persist in a single record. So now we split this into multiple records. And there was a presentation that I made explaining how this work. But of course, we all also have documentation. And you can see how here in the actor reminders, you can see the partition reminders. It goes deep into, first of all, showing how to enable this feature. It's you need the type metadata for actors to use this feature. And and then you can see details about how it was persisted in your state store, how it's going to be persisted going forward, and how to configure your actor to use this setting by adding number of partitions. In this example, we use 7. Um, so that was also another breakthrough because it was kind of limiting some customers to use actors in production, actor reminders in production. So this will be definitely changing how this app operates in production. Then we have state management with support for time to live. That has been a long ask, where like how can you support time to live, and there's some support already done for Cassandra, Memcache, Redis, and Cosmos DB, and Bernd will demo this in this call. So stay tuned. That demo will happen in this exact same call. We also have new components for GraphQL binding and AWS parameter store. Um, and we have some improvements for VS Code development with containerized environment. So you can use now GitHub's code spaces for contributing to Dapr. So we have some breaking changes, but the breaking changes are to alpha components. So if you scroll to the bottom, this link is not working, but if you scroll to the bottom, you can see that um, ZB had a major version update, and that's a breaking change. But since it's an alpha component, those are expected. So unless you're using an alpha component, this particular alpha component, you shouldn't be worried about breaking changes into Dapr. So that's all I have. So thank you very much, and I will let the next one present. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Archer. Are there any questions on the recent release? I haven't seen anything in the chat. Feel free to drop things in the chat. Okay, nothing yet. So let's move on to the next one. How to become a contributor. Your own, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Ori. Hey everyone, my name is Yaron. I'm a maintainer on several Dapr repositories, and today I want to talk about how do you become a Dapr contributor. And I'm going to talk about Dapr in particular, but I really hope that the things I'm going to say here really apply to any open source project that you want to contribute to. So let me share my screen, and Ori, please let me know when it's coming through.
I see it. Yeah.
All right, great. So if you want to contribute to Dapr, you might be asking yourself, where do I start? And like, how do I start? And so what a lot of open source projects tell you to do is basically to go to a repository. Mostly it's the main one. And they tell you to go into the issues list. And then basically most repositories have something that's called a good first item or good first issue. And you have a list here of good issues. I am telling you not to do that. Do not start out that way. Personally, from my experience, I don't recommend that because you'll just get a bunch of issues here. You don't really have like knowledge about what these are or what they do. And so there's a bunch of steps to do beforehand. And this step is good once you have like the preliminaries in place, but don't start doing this right away, please. Because that might get you frustrated, for not knowing more, that you can't find an item that you feel connected to, and we don't want to lose you there. So let's start off from the very, very beginning. The first thing that I encourage you to do before you even start, writing code or documentation is to become a community member that's active in engagements for issues and Discord. This is extremely important. I think the first major step in every open source project is to become a community member, And this really starts, by how well you know the project. If you know the project pretty well and you have a good understanding of what it does, then just start asking questions, responding on issues. That's extremely important, and I'll say why in a sec. If you don't really know, what the project is doing yet, then just go to quick starts and samples and start playing it with it by yourself, and go into the documentation, read the overviews. Once you have a pretty good understanding of what the project does, then I really encourage you to start getting involved in discussions. Why? Why do I think this is a major step to do before you do anything else? Well, first of all, you get to experience the power of the community. Um, Questions that you have, other people will ask also. So by asking questions, you're actually already contributing a lot to the Dapr project. Contributions are not only valued in code or documentation or in PRs, right? The CNCF, for example, tracks contributions as community engagements too, like responding on issues, reviewing PRs, reviewing, commenting on PRs, Slack discussion, Discord discussions. These are all considered as contributions. And I think these are extremely valuable. Dapr has a Discord channel that we can see here. And let me just zoom in a bit. And I really recommend that you join that. And if you have any questions before you start contributing to the project, if you have a question for how you do something, or a question about an issue or a PR that you want to open, please mention it here. If you already submitted a PR and you see that your PR is not actually getting attention, you can always mention this maintainers group right here. These are not all of the maintainers, it's just the ones that are online, but you can always mention maintainers with hashtag maintainers, right? Just don't abuse it too much. But if you want the maintainer's attention on something, just do that. And the reason why this is good is also because it makes maintainers to get to know you and get to know who you are. And so once you come in later with a PR, maintainers will already have known you. You would have discussed several things with maintainers in the community, and there will just be more context for the issue that you're trying to solve or for the PR that you're trying to make. And so we have a bunch of topic channels here. The general topic is like its name, it's generals for general purpose questions. Most questions actually come into this channel. Show and tell is if you did something really cool with Dapr, or if you want to see others showcasing work that they did with Dapr, this is a pretty good place to go to. Tooling is mostly around some tooling aspects that we have, maybe GitHub or Dapr CLI specific stuff. Random is just random questions that might not necessarily be associated with Dapr. Dapr is in the cloud native space, and there's lots of distributed systems experts working on it. So feel free to ask anything distributed systems related on here. Observability is a channel for tracing and telemetry. Security is about security issues, or if you want to ask a question about how Dapr handles security, this is a pretty good place. We also have ad hoc topics here. So, if there's anything that you have passion for and you want to start a discussion for, please mention maintainers or ping us directly, and we can open up these ad hoc channels. A pretty good example of that would be the configuration API, which is an ongoing issue that we've had for several months now. And so we opened this channel. It's open for everyone here. And you can just, tell us what your thoughts are, or participate in the conversation, which is a really good thing to do, and help educate everyone. We have repository specific channels. So I'm going to go over the Dapr repositories in a sec, but generally these repository channels contain the channels for the specific repository. And that's it basically for Discord. Also feel free to ask for friend requests to maintainers or other Dapr role members like approvers, and really feel free to talk to any of us. We're pretty friendly, and if we don't answer your comment or question in time here, don't take it personally. It's just that I don't think the perfect async communications tool has been invented yet. Discord is a really good improvement from Gitter that we used in the past, but still things get lost. So just use mentioning to mention maintainers or anyone in particular. And so commenting in Discord is a really good thing, but also something that's really awesome for history and records is commenting on issues. So you can go over issues, you can find issues that you feel like you can contribute in, that maybe you have domain knowledge on. Just go into the issue, read the discussion. We use upvoting to basically measure how much the community is excited or not excited about a particular feature. We try to employ this sort of like voting mechanism. So if you find an issue that you support, please upvote it. If you have an opinion about it, it would be really great if you put it on here. And so participating in discussions and community are really, I think, the first step before even actually opening a PR. And it's particularly important in issues that you want to work on, because sometimes you might need to get a better understanding of the issue before you run off the code. Even if you think you're the best Go developer ever and you're like the next Rob Pike, sometimes if you submit a PR or if you look at the code and you see something that like is immediately apparent to you that it should be done in another way, then probably there's a reason why that piece of code was made the way it is. It's probably something to do with a very specific behavior in the project, not just Dapr. So asking questions in advance for why the code behaves the way it does, instead of opening a PR right away to fix it, will save maintainers time. It'll save rejections, and it'll just make everyone happier. So really engaging in discussions about things that you think need improvements is really the best way to go before actually opening the PRs. So what not to do? Do not just open up a bunch of PRs with no context based on very small changes, right? I mean, like you can do that, but please, try not to, unless it's something that, really cries out to be fixed, or something that you've already talked about to a community member or a maintainer, and got approval that this can actually get fixed. I really recommend now that after you've engaged in discussions and after you've had a good understanding of the Dapr project, that you now go into the issue section and start by looking at issues that are triaged for the next Dapr milestone. So I would actually look at that before I filter on good first issue. Why? Well, first of all, because we're all humans and maintainers are humans too. And we like our response time hasn't been that good recently, and that's how we're not actually bots. But we forget, right? Everyone forgets to put good first issues labels on issues. So there's actually a lot of really good first issues that don't have this label. So it's good to start with these, but don't just look at the good first issues list as like the only list that you're gonna look at if you're first coming to the project. Look at all the issues for the next milestone. This is my recommendation. And then inside that milestone, try to see if they're good first issues. Like contributing to the next milestone would be the best way to have immediate impact on the project. And this is true for every Dapr repository. I'm just looking at Dapr here, but this is really true for all of the repositories that we have. Now, my next recommendation is to find your passion. All right. So Dapr has a bunch of repositories here. There's 32. I think some of these are private. I think the public ones are like 26 or 27. That's a lot of repositories. And Dapr is a really big project. And, if you're coming in from any particular programming language, probably you can find it here. So, misconception is you have to know Go to contribute to Dapr. That's not true. Dapr has SDKs and tools that are written in different languages, so that if you're really passionate about Python, maybe you can help with Python SDK. That's not to say that if you don't want to pick up Go, that you can't, and then contribute either to the Dapr runtime or the CLI or the Go SDK. They're all written in Go. You can, but if you want to contribute to Dapr with JavaScript, then we have a JavaScript repository for you. And so also my next recommendation would be, before going back to finding your passion, is if you do decide that you want to pick up Go and contribute to the Dapr runtime or the CLI or components contrib, which is where we have all of our open source components at, please do the tour of Go. If you have no prior knowledge of Go, Go is a pretty easy language to pick up. That's why it's so friendly and or so prevalent in the cloud native space. Do the tour of Go, get a pretty good basic understanding of the language, and then, you know, submit the PRs. The tour of Go and other online Go tutorials will just teach you a lot about the language. And so going back into finding your passion, whenever I'm trying to look for a good metaphor or analogy, I always go to Star Wars. So I don't know how much of a Star Wars fan you are, but in Star Wars, there's a particular Sith Lord called Darth Nihilus, who's my favorite one. And he in particular had a passion for eating entire planets using the Force, populated planets, that is, which is a lot of protein intake. But, you know, I'm not saying that you have to have this particular passion. I actually advise against eating entire populated planets, but he had such a big passion for it. And I really recommend that you find passion for whatever you want to work on with Dapr. So don't go, you know, searching for just issues that you can contribute to like immediately. If you have a passion for working on CLI stuff, go work on the CLI. If SDKs are your thing, then go work on the SDKs. Like not all PRs have to go into Dapr, okay? Impact come in many ways and forms. The Dapr project needs your help. If you want to make Dapr better for AWS developers and Google Cloud developers, please go to components contrib and work on it there, right? Just because Dapr is like the main repository, it doesn't mean that this is where all of your efforts should go. We need help. We, as in maintainers and committee members, we need help across all repositories, like each and every one. We're looking for maintainers. This is the place to also say that we're looking for maintainers for the Rust SDK. So if you have a passion for Rust, please contact us. Also, we're looking for maintainers for the C++ SDK. We're trying to make the SDKs as developer friendly as possible for the language that they're using. So if you have a passion for each of these languages, you might be the girl or guy that we're looking for. And if you really have a knack for writing samples and writing documentation, then we have the samples repository and the documentation repository and the quick starts repository. And we basically need help there with more quick starts and more samples. And, you know, making these better can have a tremendous impact on the community, because improving the runtime is good and important, but making Dapr itself much more approachable to developers that don't necessarily even know distributed systems, you know, or Go or anything else is just as critically as important. Also, we're looking for maintainers for the Dapr dashboard. And so if you have pretty good skills with UI and TypeScript in particular, please go look at our dashboard. There's lots of improvements to be done there. I think it's a great project. And yeah, that's basically it. So the last step that you'd want to do really, once you have all that in place, once you've looked at the community, once you've understood what the project does, once you find your passion or the repository you want to contribute to, and once you have a pretty good understanding and, you know, knowledge of who the maintainers are, and you've participated in discussions, the next thing to do would be to go actually to Dapr docs and look at the contributing session. The contribution overview section here will actually teach you in a very technical way what to do before submitting the PRs and how to handle pull requests. I'm obviously not going to go into all of the details here, but this is basically like what to do and what, you know, also what not to do when submitting PRs, which is pretty important. Okay, so this section right here is good. And then if you have more like wants in, you know, becoming a Dapr maintainer, then I recommend you go to the Dapr community repository, which is here. Let me search for it, community. So go here into the Dapr community one. There's lots of good resources here. Look at community membership, look at the roles we have, the responsibility, the requirements, and like these will also let you know about how to apply for a role in a given repository. So roles are per repository, right? You can be a maintainer of a repository. All right, I think that's it. If there are any questions, please reach out through, issues or questions on the community repository. This is for all of the community and contribution related stuff, or ping us directly on Discord or ask questions in the open. That's also fine. It's even more preferable because other people will be able to see it. All right, that's it. Back to you, Ori.
Great. Thank you, Yaron. I'll actually take this opportunity. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah. So as Yaron said, in the contributing section, we got a bunch of resources. If you are looking to contribute to the docs, and this is one of the biggest kind of places where we see people contributing, which is great. I'm a docs maintainer, so I just want to make sure that you know the docs contribution guidelines that we have. A lot of the stuff we're seeing is people that maybe are not familiar with our style and tone. We're just trying to be consistent. Some of these, are choices that we made at certain points. And I know some people have different style or whatever, but we are trying to be consistent. So please pay attention to this. Also kind of explains where the branch, like a little bit about the branching and so on. And because we're using Hugo, there's a few other things to know about kind of Hugo metadata and some short codes. So all that information is here. So if you are making a docs contribution, and again, we love those, a lot of fixes for broken links, for typos, for clarifications, awesome stuff. Please just go over these contributions. And we also always, as Yaron kind of said, there's the general overview, we always try to have an issue connected to a PR. So make sure there's an issue. If you're kind of raising something, then please raise it as an issue and then a PR to fix the issue. That just helps us track it and know what's going on. Cool. With that, Bernd, let's turn it over to you. Support for TTL in selected state stores, not secret stores, state stores. That was my bad.
Yep, state stores.
Take it away.
All right, sounds good. I think Yaron should have said, may the 4th be with all contributors or something like that, right? He missed the opportunity. I'll switch to presenting here, not starting my video. 1 second. All right, you can see my screen, I assume.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so I implemented the time to live feature for state stores. And before I get into this, I want to mention that this is at the record level, so entity level. Some state stores have support at the collection level or table level and so on. That is not supported here, so you would be setting that outside of Dapr. And if you don't specify a TTL, then it defaults to whatever the database will do, so the collection level or table level and so on. But you can use the feature that I'm showing here to overwrite that at an individual record level. All right, so here you see the documentation for the time to live feature. And how this is implemented is via the metadata. And one thing let me move my Zoom thing here around. One thing I'll mention is that TTL is only implemented in some state stores. So right now, Cassandra, Memcache, Redis, and Cosmos DB. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be implemented in others, but not in all state stores is TTL supported at the database level. If you want to persist a record indefinitely, you can set a special value of -1 seconds. And that's what most databases do, and where they don't, that's how I mapped it. So -1 seconds will work. And here you can see all you have to do is on the post request to the state API, you specify metadata with the key TTL in seconds, and then provide a value, though as a string, the number of seconds. Now I'll show you a quick example. I took the Hello World app and just added this metadata section here with the TTL in seconds key. And I parameterized this so I can show you some different examples. But just assume it's sending seconds right there as the value. And you can see this is just posting to the state endpoint. All right, so I have two different contents. One, I'm going to send a TTL of 10 seconds, and here -1 to persist the record. It's the same one. So again, the hello world sample from the quick starts. I'm going to start my Dapr application here. And now I'm sending that first content, the first order, persisted for 10 seconds. I'll just refresh this endpoint. We should see it sticks around for 10 seconds. So I'm refreshing until it's gone. And this is using Redis. And so 10 seconds are over. The record is gone. I'm going to send it again. And I'm going to hurry really quickly to send that other one where I want to persist it. So I'm sending my second data, which set it to -1. And as I keep refreshing this now, you'll see because of the second update, I actually persisted the same record. And it won't go away, it will stay here. So yeah, the feature is working. So if you want to give this a try yourself, all I did is actually did my typical Dapr init and the Redis that gets installed by default. You can use that out of the box. That's what I did with the quick start here. And that's how easy it is to use this feature. And that's it for me. And I'll hand it over to Charlie for a very cool feature that I used in the last couple of weeks as well. So he'll tell you more.
Thank you, Bernd. Just before Charlie starts, just to make sure everybody knows, so this is a new feature in version 1.3. So if you want to try it out, like Bernd did, you need to update to version 1.3. That was released today. Thank you, Bernd. Charlie, we.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So Bernd was mentioning the quick starts. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the quick starts too. Hopefully you're all familiar with them. For most of us, they are our first experience with Dapr, myself included. And I don't know if many community members know this, but as part of the Dapr release process, we actually go and we validate these quick starts every time to make sure that we haven't broken something, to make sure the experience is still correct, to make sure we have the right arguments, you know, everything. And as you can imagine, that is a lot of work to go and validate these. And we actually have to validate them for all the major platforms we support. So we have to validate them Mac, Windows, Linux, and different architectures and everything else, just to sanity check that they work, because we want new users to Dapr to have a really seamless experience when they join up, and the kind of the first place they usually end up is on the quick starts. And we want them to have a good experience. If you have to submit an issue before you get your first quick start running because of some problem, that's, you know, I don't know about you, but if I'm trying some you know, random thing on the random library on the internet and I hit that kind of resistance, I'm likely to just keep looking, right? So we want people to have really good quick start experience, really low friction, low frustration experience. But the manual validating of these was basically some subset of the Dapr maintainers. We would split them out and copy paste the steps from these quick starts and run them just to make sure they keep working and validate the output. And not only was that process very tedious, but it was also very error prone, right? 100 times, it's easy to skip steps, and it's easy to ignore errors, and it's easy to cut corners and miss problems. So you know, one one release cycle, in sort of a fit of passion, I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. The key insight we had was that these README files with code blocks in them with bash commands, well, they're just code. These could be executed just like any other piece of code, and we could validate this output and manually and automatically make sure that, for instance, when you invoke the order method as part of this process, that you get a 200 back with your as you'd expect. Like, we can automate that. We don't have to manually copy paste that. And so we did. And you can see we actually, as a GitHub action, we actually run validation against all of the quick starts as part of the release process. And this happens automatically. And the way we did this, we actually created a framework we called Mechanical Markdown that lets you run Markdown files as code. And I'll show you what the output of the report looks like. So it actually tells you, here are the things I am running. Here's what the output looks like. You can see the matching output. You know, this is, we have a way to specify what the output should look like. And you see in green here is the output that's matching. And we're kind of searching in the total output of the command. We're searching for, you know, key standard out data that says, oh, look, we successfully persisted our orders, and then we cleanly exited the application. And we do that for all the steps. Oh, and then lastly, we also validate each one of the external hyperlinks in the Markdown file. We actually go and do a GET request on those and make sure we get a 200 back to make sure that you know, those links always work, or if some third party changes their documentation, we want to know about it so we can go fix those links. So let me give you a little view into what this looks like, and I'm going to bring up Hello World again, and we will look at the README Markdown, and we'll bring up the raw view of this. And this looks like normal Markdown with some exceptions, or specifically, you'll see these comments called step with a little YAML document embedded in a Markdown comment that has a few annotations that say, when you run a command, here's what I'm expecting to see, and some other parameters that allow you to sort of control the execution of these steps. But so here we have a step called npm install, and it does an npm install, and any code block annotated with bash or sh, like this one, that falls in between the step and end step tags, gets executed, and its output verified. And you know, that green section of text I was showing you earlier, well, here it is right here. This is, we're going to run, when we run Dapr run app ID node app with the port, blah, blah, blah. This is the output we're expecting from standard out. And you'll notice it it's not saying the complete and total output, but it's saying at least these lines need to be there, right? This is sort of the minimal set of output that we expect in order to verify that this quick start is working. And so if you we can go on down the list, and basically each one of these steps is annotated with the expected output, and they get run like code. So you may be saying, well, oh, that's neat. I maintain some open source project that also has documentation like this that I'd like to run. Well, we made a package called Mechanical Markdown. This is a Python package, which you can get from pip, a Python 3 package. And you can use it yourself. You can, I have a README and a set of examples for Dapr Mechanical Markdown, which show you all about how to use it. And I love this part. These examples are themselves verified by Mechanical Markdown. So they're both the documentation and they're the integration test for this tool. And you can go through these examples step by step. And if you look at the, you can look at the sort of raw version of each one of these Markdown files and see how they themselves are annotated and executable using the framework. And so I'm going to switch to my terminal window real quick and just show you how to execute this utility. So let me zoom in a bunch here. But when you do a pip install on Mechanical Markdown, I already did it, so it's already here. You actually get a utility in your Python scripts directory, assuming you have it set up in your path. You actually get a utility called mm.py. And this is the utility that parses your Markdown file, looks for those annotations, and then executes this code and builds a report. And you can see there's a couple of options. I mentioned validating links. So even if you haven't annotated any of your Markdown files, this validate links feature is actually really handy, because even if it's just a regular old, let's see, where am I? I'm in, okay. Even if I just a regular old README file that just happens to have links in it, Mechanical Markdown can go ahead and validate all of your third-party links are accessible, that you get a 200. And there you go. These are all in the main Quick Start README, these are all the third-party links that we have, and you see they all get 200s. So say you want to do more than that, though. So let's go to Hello World. And we want to start, annotating my README. There's a couple of helpful arguments here. One of them I find really helpful is the dry run flag, which is read the README file, tell me exactly what you're going to run and what you expect to see, right? And then, but don't actually do anything. And that's really handy when you're first annotating your Dapr, your Markdown, to see what Mechanical Markdown, if it's correctly interpreting your bash code blocks. And yeah, so let me make sure I actually have the latest Dapr here. And then once we have the latest Dapr installed, I can then execute this README file just by typing mm.py and giving it README, and you can see it's printing out. I'm running npm install, I'm running Dapr run, I'm running Dapr invoke, I'm curling to make sure that my order works, and then at the very end of running all these commands, you'll get a report with the details of what worked and what didn't, and it will also, it will return failure on an error, so you can easily integrate it in your CI/CD pipelines. But here we got a successful execution, and it can tell you the duration of each step, how long it took, and that sort of thing. And I am probably at time, so I will stop there and pause for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. I don't see any questions. Seeing some favorable responses, but yeah, thank you for that. Give people another.
Yeah, I just wanted to give like a shout out to Charlie for writing this tool. It was definitely a game changer for our release in Dapr, and I see this can be reused in many other projects. So thanks, Charlie.
Yep. Plus
Oh, also, I meant to mention, most of the examples in our SDKs are now also covered. I think we just added Go, Python SDK, and the Java SDK. All those examples are covered by the same process. So here we are making sure that
Yep.
all our documentation is up to date.
Yeah, docs are also using this to validate external links. Internal links in the docs are kind of covered by Hugo when we build the site. And this checks external links, and it's a great tool for us to find out if somebody moved something in some external documentation or something. So this is terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, one announcement that I want to make sure I make. So we've been having these community calls, I think, since basically Dapr started, so for a while now. And they've usually been on Tuesdays, and a lot of us are on the west coast of the US, and we've done them at 10 a.m. Pacific. But as Dapr is growing, and I think that was kind of convenient for a lot of folks from Europe as well, which I know are on the call sometimes. But as Dapr is growing and we have more and more global contributors and the community is growing, we actually want to make sure that we accommodate other regions as well. So what we're going to be doing, and we'll announce this later exactly, but probably starting from the next community call, we're going to start alternating the times of when we're doing these calls, which means for us in the Pacific time zone, Pacific Coast time zone, will be doing them later in the day, which will give the opportunity of folks from Asia, hopefully, to join as well. And we're probably going to alternate between the time, like doing them for like Asia accommodating and US and Europe accommodating. So hopefully that would work out. In any case, like today that we're recording this call, we're recording all the calls and we're putting them on YouTube. So you can always check back on calls you may have missed. And hopefully this will make the community a little bit, the community calls at least, a little more accessible for everybody around the globe. So, I mean, this is great. It means that we really have a lot of people. It's a good problem to have, that we have so many people around the world that want to participate. Yeah, that's it from me. So I think with that, we can move on to an open discussion. I think, Nick, you wanted to mention something. You pinged me earlier. Can you unmute, Nick?
Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to plus one. I think Charlie said we updated the SDKs, as the docs for the SDKs.
So you'll notice that the stable SDKs now have examples for how to use them with each building block. So Java and Go were recently introduced. Check it out. That's it.
Very cool. So just maybe show what you mean. So does that mean that in the building blocks, where is this?
For now, yeah, that's the next pass. But for now, if you go to the SDKs on the left,
Right.
you'll see here that Go and Java have been, so you click on Java, for example, yep, this was introduced yesterday, how to use the Java SDK. And if you scroll down, there will be examples on how do you invoke a service using the Java SDK, how do you pub sub, and so on. So
And these are examples that actually live not on the docs repo, but are actually part of the Java repo and are pulled in as a submodule, right?
correct.
So we got those currently for Go. We got those for Python. Now we have them for Java. We have them for .NET as well. So this is terrific. We are definitely putting an effort, and thank you, Nick, for doing a lot of this work to bring this in so the experience is a little more better. You don't have to hop between repos to get the documentation. So yeah. So check those out, help us improve them, and thank you, Nick. Anybody else? Any topic that you want to bring up? We still have around 5 minutes. Any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So with that, we will close this community call today. Thank you for everybody who presented. Thank you for everybody who joined. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Please keep following us on Twitter and the community repo to see the new times once we update them, probably starting 2 weeks from now. Thank you very much.